Hi all, welcome to this, the first video in our next topic, which is going to be looking at population geography. Now, to start us off, what kind of things are we going to be looking at in the topic? So we're going to be looking at the main factors that influence population, where people are around the globe, why they're found where they are, and how they move between different places. So, specifically, we've got 5 main topic areas that we're going to be examining. We'll be looking at global population distribution and density. We're going to be looking at the factors that influence population change, demographic data gathering, the demographic transition model and population pyramids, and we're going to be looking at migration. Now in today's video, we're going to be looking at global population distribution and density. Now this is something that is reasonably straightforward. We're looking at where people are in the world and why are they located there, or not, as the case may be. So if we look at this, most of you, I dare say, will have seen maps like this before. We've got a population density map. So we're looking at this, and obviously the areas that are more brightly shaded red are more densely populated. So we can look at, areas in Japan around Tokyo, areas kind of around Beijing in China. You can even kind of dial it in, look, you have areas in London, where you've got much darker colours, so we've got a lot more people there. And you can look, you have areas, northern Russia, throughout the Sahara, things like that, where you've got lower population numbers. But the question is why? Why do we have people in some of these areas and not others? Now, when we're thinking about this, we need to be aware of the 2 different kinds of density that we might be talking about. Now, you've got arithmetic density, which is the total number of people per unit of land, and you've got physiological density, where it's the total number of people per unit of arable land. Now, what we tend to use is arithmetic density. So, for the couple of examples I've thrown up there, the US has got a population density of 76 people per square mile. New York City, 1 million people per square mile, and Australia's got 7. Where physiological density can come into things is when people start to think about overpopulation, because that tends to look more at how many people can an area of land actually support. So it's not something that we'll go into in huge depth, but it's something to be aware of. Now, when we think about the factors that we've got 10 factors that we consider. 11 factors even, I've miscounted. But we'll get 11 factors that we consider. And these can have positive and negative impacts on population distribution and its density. So first, if we think about terrain, what is the land actually like? Is the land flat? If it's flat, it's easy to build on, so people will want to live there. If it's incredibly mountainous, it's going to be really hard to build on, so people will not want to live there. What about the climate? Human beings prefer particular climates, and when we think about the climates we prefer, it's largely around what is going to be conducive to growing crops. That also tends to be climates that we are naturally reasonably comfortable in. So, the areas around the world where climate is a big impact tend to be areas, around the Mediterranean, things like that, where you've got a very, very good climate for both growing crops and for people to actually live in. Soil, is it fertile? Again, it's coming back to this ability to sustain ourselves, to actually produce food and support a large population. Is the soil fertile? Do we have clean drinking water? Is it there in abundance? Again, can we sustain ourselves? Vegetation, and this one can cut both ways. So we can have, just enough vegetation, or the types of vegetation in an area that are beneficial. So human civilizations grew up, originated in areas where things like wheat would grow on its own, and different grasses would grow on their own that could be harvested. If you don't have any vegetation at all, you're lacking a resource that you could use for a population centre to flourish. Or, on the other side, if you've got too much vegetation, it can be a hindrance to building. And you look at, areas like the deepest Amazon. It's one of the reasons why we've not developed it more, is because it's expensive. You need to cut down trees. You need to clear an area in order to make it suitable for a settlement. Diseases. Do you live in an area that has a lot of conditions that can lead to disease? So do you live somewhere where malaria is a thing? Do you live somewhere where you've got the climatic conditions for the mosquito to live? Similarly, with yellow fever and all these other diseases. If you do live in a place like that, that will suppress the population density in that area. It will make it lower because people don't want to live in these places for fairly obvious reasons. Equally, the reverse is true as well. You know, people will want to live in places where you don't have these diseases, you don't have the conditions for them. Resources, when we think about resources, we are thinking about natural resources that we can use to either make money from or use to make things. So, you know, are you going to have people in places where you've got big deposits of iron, of gold, of diamonds, of oil? All of these things, if they are there, will promote population densities to be larger than if they weren't. You can look at, you know, if you ever look at maps of Australia's population density, for instance, you get little spikes in Western Australia near where you've got mining towns, and those towns only exist because you've got a resource there that can be exploited. It's another, if you look at the USA and it's throughout its history, if you ever think of, you know, a ghost town, the reason they're ghost towns is because the towns that were there started when there was something that could be mined in the area, and then a lot of the time those mines either ran dry or they weren't economic to use anymore and they closed down, and then the town gets abandoned and the population density was brought up by this economic resource that we could use, and then it dropped back off again when the resource was no longer usable. Communications, and this is, we're talking about natural routeways. So are you in an area where you've got rivers going past you that can be used for sailing? You get towns in valleys that are used as kind of main pathways, main routeways. Economy, again, people move to places that have a good economy. So it's why we find, for the first time ever, around about a year ago, we reached a point where the urban population of the planet exceeded the rural population. And one of the big reasons for that is economics. People move to urban centres because there's money there, there are jobs there, so that enhances the population density. Politics is a huge one. In this, we're talking about everything from, are you somewhere where you're being oppressed and you're going to move away from that? Is it somewhere that's at war? Is it somewhere where there's, you know, any form of kind of political fallout that you will want to move away from? And the flip side of that is if people move to areas where they will not be oppressed, where there are political freedoms that they can be guaranteed. And the last one, hazardous features. And in this, again, we're talking about natural hazardous features. So, you know, when people tend not to live in areas that are extremely prone to earthquakes. Yes, there are exceptions to this, but you tend not to find new settlements getting built on areas that are extremely prone to these hazardous features. Now, I'm going to wrap this one up here. This is all we're going to be looking at in today's video. The next video, we're going to be looking at some of the indicators that we use to discuss population, and I will see you guys then.